Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Connor here at the Game House, and I'm here today to give my actual first tier list for Overwatch 2 Stadium, a mode I've been incredibly happy to see come out and really been pleased with. I think Overwatch did a great job with this, and so I've been working to make several builds over on the Game House's website, at thegamehouse.com. Be sure to check those out as well. And I've actually already published the tier list over there, so if you'd rather, just have this as a spoiler and see it on the website, you can head over to the website and see it there as well. But yeah, I wanted to walk through today, see where I think each of the 17 heroes is placed. Before I do that, and before I get into the list, I do want to make some caveats. This is attempted to be a tier list for any individual playing this game, regardless of skill level. So this is just going off of how I think the heroes' kits are in terms of adaptability, playability across all ranks, and again, as I said, this is what I'm looking for here, or how good are these heroes in every situation. I have seen just about every single hero, with exceptions of maybe one or two, carry a game. So there's definitely some asterisks around this saying that, obviously there are going to be opportunities to pop off for all of these heroes, but still. Overwatch is a game I've covered since 2016, both as a full-time journalist and an analyst, and so I'm really excited to get to this. And so yeah, without any further ado, I think let's just get right into it. We're going to go one hero at a time here, kind of just through the list. And I'm going to talk through where I have each and why. Last thing on the ranks, S tier I consider to be just very dominant. A tier, still dominant, but not quite like A. B, I feel like you get into coin flip territory. C and D, I think, are non-optimal picks, especially with D. I think you just stay away from whatever heroes end up in D tier. C tier, I feel like I see more often than not a struggle on these heroes, with maybe some exception, but still. All right. Let's get right into it, and let's start with D.Va here on our tier list. I have D.Va in A tier. So, in particular with D.Va, I have found that D.Va's a shutdown hero in this mode. I mean, building into the Matrix build, and I have a build where I really enjoy going Matrix with the micro missile returns, and then you're able to scale the micro missiles a bit. But the whole focus on this is to shut down heroes like Reaper, Soldier 76, those kind of projectile DPS, not just projectile, but just those DPS that can be very annoying in this mode. It can also eat the Moira balls, so there's a lot of utility in the D.Va defense matrix, and that is where I see the value coming into this hero. That's why I have her at A. The mobility is also great. This is a game mode with a lot of brawling. Until we get Sigma in Season 17, I really don't think there's going to be a lot of super viable poke comps forming, but I think D.Va in the current meta especially fits in really nicely. Maybe not the most dominant tank, which we're gonna, spoiler, she's not the highest ranked tank, but still a tank with good viability nonetheless. All right, let's get into Junker Queen here, who I actually have an S tier. I could see this one being a little bit contentious, putting her above even D.Va, but Junker Queen is actually the highest rated tank that I have found in the game. Now, the build that I have really liked to run with Junker Queen circles around her commanding shout cooldown and using Carnage, and just kind of staying in, cycling cooldowns, keeping yourself up, healing allies, and just being a really annoying sustain character up in the front line. I have found this to be incredibly strong. With the bleed you apply, just everything in her kit just screams this mode, and also just screams her staying alive. It feels like more often than not when I get into a game with the Junker Queen, whether it's on my team or the enemy's team, it feels like it's dominant, to where I have very little run into a Junker Queen that feels useless in a game. And so I feel like this is a pretty meta-proof hero at the moment. Whether you're playing Junker Queen with like a Genji soldier with a little bit of frontline and some backline poke, you certainly synergizes well with Mei and Reaper because of the frontline presence. Just a ton of value I think you can get out of the Junker Queen in this mode. So if you're looking for a tank to try, maybe you're new to Overwatch 2 Stadium, not really that familiar with what's going on, I would start with Junker Queen, just because it feels like every element of her kit can be useful. The only exception is I wouldn't really scale into the Jagged Knife, the pole build. I don't know that it requires a little too much skill shotting and doesn't really feel like an ability that gets a lot of value in this mode. But like I said, with her shout, Carnage, even just weapon build, I think is very, very good. So that being said, I have Junker Queen in S tier. So we're going to continue with the tanks here, going kind of tank DPS support in order. I actually have Orisa down here in C tier. So I don't think Orisa is bad necessarily, but I feel like Orisa really struggles compared to other tanks. And I've tried a lot of different builds with Orisa. I've tried kind of the overheat burn build. I've tried the deflect build. But I really think the best way she's probably played is with Supercharger and just using it as a way to basically stay alive, make your DPS stronger, and just live. So maybe scaling into Fortify, survivability, those sorts of things. I could see maybe some other ways as well, but I feel like Orisa in the current meta, without a shield, without the ability to eat damage like D.Va can, without quite as much sustain and lifesteal as Junker Queen has, it just feels like she is at a pretty constant mismatch. Doesn't feel great into Reinhardt, doesn't feel great into Zarya, maybe feels the best into D.Va, but I don't think feels good into Junker Queen either, even though I feel like it should be a bit of a counter to Junker Queen. It just doesn't quite feel that way. The Fortify is nice, but still, I have Orisa down in C tier. All right, let's look at Reinhardt next. Reinhardt is one in this mode that I actually have in A tier, above D.Va in A tier, notably. I've honestly just built his shield and gone for a lot of sustain, and I do think he can be, you know, with us talking about how this is a very brawl-centered game mode, it feels like to start. Reinhardt's right at home in that scenario, and the shield is really nice. I mean, when you get to the later rounds especially, and the DPS can nearly one-shot everyone, you know, a Mei Icicle and a Soldier Rocket, you're gone. And so having a Rein shield up front really is a nice piece of utility that I feel like is a little undervalued. You can go weapon damage and just kind of brawl with his hammer as well. There's a lot you can do with Reinhardt in this mode, which is nice because it feels like when you're playing Reinhardt in ranked, you're just kind of a shield bot and you stand up front, and it's hard to find instant value and utility. But it really does feel like in this stadium mode that Reinhardt finds a lot of hidden value that I don't feel like he's had in a long time in Overwatch. Again, this is a game I've been playing since release, and I'm a bit of a tank main. Like Winston, Reinhardt are really my two heroes that I've played a lot in this game, and this feels like some of the most fun I've had with Reinhardt in a while. So if you are a Reinhardt main, definitely give him a try in this mode. Like, make that your first pick, even if Junker Queen's maybe a little bit better. I've seen some Reinhardts really terrorize this mode. I've also seen some become just floppy fish, you know, so take it for what it's worth. But yeah, I think Reinhardt is firmly an A tier in Overwatch 2 Stadium without a doubt. All right, and now let's get into our last tank here. That's going to be Zarya. I have her in between the other two tanks in A tier. So obviously I'm not trying to put a tank in each tier. I don't think it's quite that simple. I think tanks are very strong in this mode, and I think Zarya is no exception. I really like Zarya in particular, though, because whenever you see the enemy comp before you pick your first power, you have a lot of flexibility with how you want to play this hero. She has, I think she has two really strong, distinct builds. So I prefer to play the weapon damage build with her and just have your beam become extremely powerful. I think I have a build written on the website called the Hyper Beam build. I'm still working to get through builds for all of the heroes. I've played all of them extensively, but trying to get through them all on the website, so be sure to check those out. I'll throw some links in the description for those, but you can play the Hyper Beam build and really just scale her weapon damage. I think it pierces. It can go up, obviously, to the 150% charge, all that good stuff. But you can also play Zarya really defensively with bubbles, and then late game scale into that damage, kind of once you have your bubbles extremely strong, then go for higher charge, or just play purely defensive. I feel like if you were going against maybe a Genji and a Reaper, and we're anticipating having a really hard time with that, maybe a Junker Queen too, that's when I'd consider maybe the Beam build, or the bubble build rather. But in the same way, I feel like Beam is just very strong. The only things I would see it being annoying against would be a Reinhardt, because you're just constantly, attacking his shield. It could be a little annoying against Orisa, and then if they're just like really a hard comp to get a hold of, like a Juno Mercy or Juno Lucio with, I don't know, maybe like a Genji Mei, that could be pretty annoying. to try and beam down at short range. But if you're brawling, and it looks like that's going to be the composition you're going up against, I would go beam build with her. Either way, though, at the end of the day, I feel like Zarya is strong in this mode. Certainly counters D.Va, obviously. That's been a counter for a long time, though. So, yeah, Zarya I have firmly in A tier. And that rounds out the tanks. Overall, I think looking at tanks in this mode, I think there's a lot of value in pretty much all of them. I think there is a distinct drop-off with Orisa. I'd be curious what you all think. Let us know in the comments. Obviously, if you have any thoughts on any of this, would be open to hearing it. Yeah, I have Orisa being kind of far and away the worst tank. But let's move to DPS now. And speaking of worst of things, I have Ashe in D tier. I think Ashe is the worst character in this mode. And I hesitate to say this, but I don't think it's that close. I've tried Ashe, and I've lost every game I've played with her, and maybe this is just me coping, I'm not sure, but I've never really seen Ashe take over a game. The Bob build doesn't feel that great. Maybe the weapon build can feel good if you're really hitting a lot of shots. The Dynamite build doesn't feel that great. You know, it just feels like I'd rather have any other DPS, to be frank. You know, for that one with the AoE, I'd rather have Mei or Reaper. For the gun build, I'd rather have Soldier or Cassidy. And for the ult build, it's like, I don't know. I would rather just have anything else. I don't feel like the Bob build is all that rewarding right now. That's the one in particular that I was really hoping would be good. One, because everyone loves Bob, and two, it just feels like that's her most unique part of her kit that could provide value. And it feels pretty atrocious to me. So Ashe is going to be alone in D tier for me. I apologize to all the Ashe fans out there that might be hurt by this. This is not personal. I just think she needs some tuning. I think she'd be okay. She could easily be overtuned, though. If the Bob build gets out of control, that would be a problem. But still, I mean, Bob's damage just doesn't stack up to the other DPS's damage even at all. So anyway, we'll move along with our first hero in B tier, and that is going to be Cassidy. I think Cassidy being in B tier is perfect. Seems exactly middle of the road. Now, I've seen some Fan the Hammer builds go truly crazy on Cassidy and really cause some problems. That being said, I've also seen Cassidy just truly shut down in these games before, where if he maybe builds a little bit incorrectly, or not getting good value out of ult, which I don't feel like his ult is great in this mode. Maybe against certain lineups like Juno or something, it's good, but overall, it feels like Cassidy is super meddling. I'm still working on a build that I like for him. I've tried a couple different ones. I've tried the just really kind of hyper spamming the Fan the Hammer and making that strong. I've tried just a normal kind of skill shot, pure hit scan build, but haven't really found anything with Cassidy I like. So if you have a build you found with him, honestly, let me know in the comments of what you've done. I would be curious to find one that I enjoy playing, because I just really haven't. So for now, and the impact I've seen in games, kind of how others have expressed about Cassidy, he is firmly in B tier. Let's move on now to Genji, who I also have in B tier, right behind Cassidy, actually. If you've played Genji in Stadium, I think you've probably had the experience of the early game pain, and that's what keeps Genji in B tier for me. I've played the dash build. I have a slash and dash build written on the website. Check that one out. It feels really good if you can get to round 5 or something. When you get that third power and your dashes are causing bleed, they're wider, you're getting over health, like all this stuff can feel great, and you can just end up turning into a dash machine in the back line, which is a really fun playstyle, by the way. But the first 2 rounds, with only one ability, you're kind of a floppy fish, and you have to really pick your moments carefully, which just feels bad compared to what some of the other DPS can do. I mean, Reaper's scary from the beginning of the game on. Soldier with his lock on is definitely outdoing you as Genji. Cassidy feels better early, Mei feels better early, so if this were an early game tier list, Genji's probably in D tier, but I think overall, because of how he can scale and the building being really strong, I think Genji is a B tier hero for this one. You could maybe interchange him and Cassidy. I'm even second guessing that as I have it here, but for now we'll stick with what I've got, and that's Genji sitting in B tier, the swordsman. I have not tried just a pure Dragon Blade build yet. That could be fun as well, but I've mainly gone with the dash build. There's some you can do though with Shuriken as well that I need to put probably more hours into, but for what I've seen, feels B tier. All right, let's stick in B tier actually. It's kind of crazy how this is working out, but I've got Mei in B tier as well, ahead of the other two. Now, I have seen some Meis really take over. I mean, just become monsters, where they're just rolling around in their Ice Ball. The Ice Ball build is, I think, the one everyone's kind of playing, understandably. You get the ult surrounding it. It feels really good. I think her early game is pretty bad until you have 2 powers. And I do think that she can be exploited pretty fast. When she gets out of Ice Ball, usually I see the Meis get bursted down quite a bit, unless there's a really good peel. So to have an ability put you in danger like that, or force you to have to kind of roll in, roll out, it's similar feeling to Genji, honestly. But I think where Mei is really good is that this is a very brawl-centered mode right now. There's just I feel like brawling is absolutely at a premium, and so Mei is a great choice in almost every game. It feels good to have a Mei on your team, so I could have seen myself maybe putting her a tier higher. It feels like she's right on that cusp between A and B, but for now we do have her in B tier. All right, 2 DPS left, both going to earn very different rankings. This one I have a feeling will surprise some people, but I have Reaper in C tier. I can already feel just the seething hatred for this ranking, but let me explain myself. So to be clear, when the game first came out, like the first couple days, I was like, Reaper is S+. I mean, I was just playing Reaper, I was frontlining, I was shooting everyone, killing everyone, and it felt great. And that still happens, like, you know, an occasional game for me. However, I do feel like Reaper has some really, really hard counters, where if a tank or a support on the other team is playing with the Reaper in mind, you can just force him to get no value. For example, if you have a D.Va, and the D.Va simply turns around when the Reaper teleports behind you and gets his little mini ult, it gets no value and probably dies. I mean, I've had a couple games where I've had someone on my team doing this build, and they would just get totally shut down. On the flip side, let's say the Reaper's playing just pure attack damage, frontlining, attack speed, healing from Wraith, that kind of build. That actually probably is my favorite build for Reaper at the moment. You know, starting off with that one where Wraith mode heals you. That one I feel like is shut down with some good bubbles from Zarya. Reinhardt shield obviously shuts it down. Mei can get out of it. Cassidy can flashbang you. Genji can deflect it. Soldier can poke you at range. And I know I've been talking about how Brawl is strong, and so I do feel like maybe I'm undervaluing Reaper a little bit here. Let's see, it feels a little bit wrong, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm sticking with it, because I do think that he is only going to get worse as people get better at the mode, better at countering him, and they know what to look for more. I think in the first couple days, people were just so caught off guard by Reaper that he felt really dominant, and I think some people are maybe holding on to that memory a little too tightly. So I have Reaper in C tier for now. Could change, but for now, C tier. All right, let's round out the DPS here. Soldier 76. I feel like he got hit hardest by the nerfs, but I still think Soldier's S tier. Top of S tier, actually, I think. Now, this is another one I could see people really balking at. I've heard, I posted the article on Reddit, and the Redditors were turning their nose up at some of these picks. That's fine. But I feel like Soldier 76, because of that ability, is absolutely broken. If you hit someone with a Helix rocket, and you have Supervisor, you're gonna kill him. I mean, unless there's a, 0.1 second cleanse or heal that comes through, or maybe you hit a Kiriko and she teleports. I don't know. I have been deleted by Soldier more times in this game than I would like. Maybe there's some personal bias coming in here. Maybe I just am coping because I'm bad. That maybe that's just it. But at the end of the day, I feel like Soldier is just such a lock. I see him in almost every game. It's very rare that he doesn't get value. Sure, there are some counters. D.Va is another. I keep talking about D.Va as this counter pick, and I really think there's a ton of counter pick value in D.Va because she can turn, focus fire down the Soldier, eat all of his damage. But the way to play Soldier is to find an off angle, avoid the tank, kill the supports instantly, and then your team's just won the fight. And that feels like it happens way too often with Soldier. There's only one build you play with them, and it's the Supervisor attack damage, Helix Rocket build. And that just feels like it's just way too strong. Even getting it taken down from 0.75 seconds to 0.5 doesn't feel like enough. I feel like there's going to have to be a wholesale change to his kit if he's going to be purely balanced, but this is just my take. Obviously, this is, I don't need to say it, but this is my tier list, so these are kind of how I feel about the game right now. Others might not like this or may debate it. That's fine. But I really do feel like Soldier is absolutely a must pick if you're building a good team right now. He fits into every composition. All the reasons that I've talked about S tier and what it is, I think he is exactly that. All right. Before we move on to the sports, just a reminder, if you are enjoying this content, like and subscribe, the usual YouTube plug. Really appreciate it, though. We're going to be covering Stadium on the website a lot more. And so if you also want to read more about builds, have one open on your other screen while you're playing. We've got builds just like that, so be sure and head on over and check them out. All right, plug over, though. Let's move on to supports. Now, the supports, I feel like all of them are pretty good. There's not a single one of the bunch that I would say is just atrocious. So just keep that in mind as I'm ranking these. I do feel like all of these are pretty viable. None as bad as Ashe. As a spoiler, no one will be joining Ashe down here in D tier. I think she is far and away the worst character in the mode. Let's go with Ana first, and she's going to be at the back of B tier. Could have been in C tier. But I think Ana has a lot of denial. Grenade is really strong in this mode. I mean, sure, Kiriko can cleanse it, but otherwise you can get usually just so much value with these, throwing them into team fights. With Brawl being strong, Ana can just usually find a lot of value. The reason she's farther down, though, is because she's very easily diveable. A Reaper, a Genji, a Soldier, so many different characters can just get on the Ana and take her down. That being said, though, still ways to counterplay against that. You can grenade yourself, you can hit sleeps. You can buy that item that makes the sleep projectile size 100% bigger, which is hilarious to me. So there is counterplay to be had with Ana. I do feel like, though, she is pretty firmly middle, if not C tier. I could have put her here. I wouldn't have felt that bad about Ana being in C tier, honestly. But for now, bottom of B tier. Still working on a build that I like for her as well. I've seen people go into the ulting multiple targets late game. Feels really good. So there's definitely value to be found with Ana, just less than other supports in my eyes. Let's move on now to Juno. And I actually have Juno at the top of B tier. All right, if I can get her to sit there. Yep, there she is. This is one, just like I could have put Ana in C. I think I could have put Juno in A. I bet some people would want me to put Juno in S, because her torpedo build is really crazy. I mean, if you can live and you can find survivability, this is where Soldier is such a counter to Juno. I mean, the Supervisor just shuts this down, but if you can fly around, have everyone on the map in your torpedo, right-click and just delete people, it feels incredibly good. The damage you can deal, the healing you can put out, feels so good. You know, the supports that find value in this mode are the ones that can kind of be stat stuffers. They can deal a lot of damage, do a lot of healing. Maybe not as much burst healing as Ana because of the grenade, or even Kiriko, but incredible sustain healing. And I feel like with the sustain being already pretty well achieved by our best tanks, there's not a massive need for burst healing. Even still, though, I feel like Juno is maybe the most fun support to play. So if you're looking for just a fun game, I would actually queue Juno maybe before almost any other character in the game. Just feels really good to get the torpedo build going. I've also got that one on the website if you want to check it out. But yeah, just a really good character. Like I said, I could have put her in A, I think, but B feels fine for now. So we do have Juno in B tier. 4 heroes left, though. We're almost through this, folks. Thanks for sticking around if you're still here. Really appreciate the support. Excited to be covering Overwatch 2 Stadium. You know, this is a game that we have, I really love, and I'm glad to see Overwatch getting a little bit of a facelift all these years later. It's nice. Let's get back to the list, though. Kiriko. I have an A tier right here. There we go. Yep. So Kiriko is here because her healing output can be so crazy. The cleanse is very, very good. Counters Junker Queen, counters Ana, does a lot for your team to get you out of sticky situations. You can build into the cleanse as well. I really like her multi-healing as well with her cards. I could see it, you know, someone making a pretty convincing case to flip Juno and Kiriko. Like, I'm willing to see the problems in my own list right away. I don't know that this is perfect, but still, I have yet to really get into a game where I felt like Kiriko was useless. But the problem with, and I think why people don't rank her as highly, is she's not going to be the one getting kills. At least not usually. Maybe you could build with her right-click and go weapon damage and do all that kind of stuff, but I feel like as a pure healer, she's a really good background choice and can just take over a game with the healing output. Just a lot in her kit to like. The ult is really good. Cleanse obviously very good. TP a great way to get out. Can wall climb. All the usual reasons Kiriko is good still maintain themselves here. So that's why I have her in A tier. One of the highest rated supports in the game for me. Spoiler: one of these three is rated higher, and it might not be who you may think. So let's get right into the next one before I talk anymore, give any more spoilers away. And that's going to be Lucio. And I have Lucio in C tier. Gasp. Okay. There was a Reddit comment I saw that said, hey, but Lucio's win rate's really high. Well, I think that's probably because his pick rate's pretty low. I don't think a lot of people are playing Lucio because I don't think Lucio feels great. Now, I'm not saying there aren't ways to win with Lucio. I just have not found one that feels reliable for me yet. Now, if you're watching this video and you're just flabbergasted by this, don't kill me. Just tell me how you build Lucio and what you've seen work. I'm happy to go back to the drawing board in this list and reevaluate some things. You know, there'll be a new one. If there's like a mid-season patch or like for season 17, I'll definitely do one. Like when Freya gets added, I'll probably reevaluate this list, but it just does not feel good for me to play Lucio right now. The mini sound barrier doesn't feel great. The boop wall build, I haven't been able to pull off or see anyone pull off. Now, I've got against some annoying Lucios, but usually I feel like they end up feeding. Maybe this is just a reflection of my rank, not sure, but I have not seen or felt like Lucio deserves to be much higher than C tier. One of those kind of like Reaper I've seen take over games, but I don't feel like can do so consistently, so I've got Lucio in the bottom of C tier actually. To be clear though, I don't think he's close to being D tier. I think this is a pretty wide gap between these two, honestly. But still, C tier nonetheless. We've got Mercy here, and she is going to fall just above Lucio in C tier in my pick. Same thing. Mercy, I have not found a build that I love with her yet. The reses are good. I mean, if you can res your tank, it's almost always going to swing a fight if it's like the first pick. There's a lot of value there. The sustained healing is really good. She's very hard to kill. I mean, I've played some games against Mercies that just won't die. Especially because, you get a little bit of Valkyrie after resing, things like that. There's a lot to like about Mercy. It just feels like I would much rather have a Juno or Kiriko as like a main healer. Juno offers you a lot of damage in addition to healing, and Kiriko offers that utility. Now, the res is one of those things that doesn't go on the stat sheet, so it's hard to see the value of that reflected when you're just looking at pure healing in games. Like, she's really doing a lot more than the healing suggests. Still, though, I feel like damage is at such a premium here. If a soldier locks onto you as Mercy, you're still dead. So if D.Va goes after you, you're probably still dead. If Juno finds you, maybe you're still dead. Cassidy. I mean, there's all of these different counters to, a moth flying around in the sky like Mercy. So it's hard for me to rank her any higher than C. Again, if you're a Mercy one trick and you've just been stomping your games, please let me know how. I would love to rank this hero higher, because it feels like Mercy should be good in this mode. I just haven't seen it yet. So C tier for me. And now we're at our final hero in the mix, and this is going to be Moira. And this is one that I've also, I got some flack on Reddit for, so I'm excited to put Moira in S tier. Haha. I think Moira is very good. I think without a doubt, Moira is incredibly strong. And it's because, again, it's not necessarily what's going to go on the stat sheet, but hear me out. So everyone plays the multi-ball build with Moira. Of course, that's what you're going to play. Makes the most sense. It's dominant. You can cover the entire arena by round 5 with every kind of orb you can imagine, and your cooldowns are going to get pretty low to where you can almost do it, you know, on repeat. What you do with Moira that I feel like is valuable is you go for the healing reduction, and you make it to where you're tapping every single player on the other team with an orb. You're cutting down their ability to heal, and yeah, that might not show up on the stat sheet, but you are such a thorn, and you're requiring them to find a way to cleanse or bubble or something to get that off of them. Usually I don't feel like it happens, and so when I feel like I'm going against a Moira, they are either just carrying in terms of pure damage and also getting good healing value, or they're just not allowing my team to heal, and it's just completely, it can just break a team. So again, I feel like Moira in general, if you're a player who is probably below Diamond in competitive ranked, I feel like you can get value out of Moira in nearly every game. I feel the same in Stadium. Maybe at higher levels, she's shut down a little bit harder. I could see that being the case, but still, kind of where I'm at, you know, I hover around, like, you know, I've I think been everything from like gold to diamond before in this game personally. So I'm not like a mega gamer, but I feel like Moira, if you're in the rank where I feel like a lot of the general populace is, Moira feels really, really, really good, and it is my highest rated support. So to kind of talk about the list as a whole before I sign off here, again, I have seen Reapers take over games. I've seen Mercies go a full game without dying a single time. I've seen Maze just totally shred. Junos can just delete entire teams, it feels like, with the torpedo build. So I don't want people to not play these heroes or feel like I'm saying they're bad. I'm just saying, if I'm going off of, you know, all the games I've played, what I've seen some others talk about, other games I've watched, streamers I've watched, it feels like the consistency is up here, which feels like it is at an absolute premium in Overwatch 2 Stadium. But overall, definitely want to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you think of this tier list. Am I totally wrong? Is it a clown list? Is it pretty on, you know, spot on? What have you seen in your games? I want to make this for the community, and I'm really excited just to be covering Overwatch 2 again. This is a game that I've covered, you know, at one point in time as a full-time journalist. I was able to go to Overwatch League events, and this is a game that, you know, honestly and truly got me into esports. So not trying to wax poetic too much here, but very excited to see a mode like Overwatch 2 Stadium back in the game, revitalizing it. The mode's certainly not perfect. I think it will continue to scale and get better, but for now, I'm just happy to be covering it. Hope you all are too. Hope you're enjoying it, and hope you enjoyed this tier list. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Like and subscribe. Check out our articles over on thegamehouse.com. I'll link a bunch in the description. That way you can just hop right over there. And yeah, thank you all so much for tuning in. And from our house to yours, we hope you'll join us again for more Overwatch content in the near future. We'll see you all next time.